Okay, now it's time to look at publishing our application, and the platform that we're going to use to do this is Heroku. And the reason for this is there's a generous free option for this, and it even gives us a free database that we can use as well. So if you do not already have a Heroku account, then please go ahead and sign up for this. The most they'll ask you for is an email address that you have to verify, and then you'll be able to use this platform to publish your application on the internet so that anybody can access your app wherever they are in the world. So once you've signed up, then you should be in a dashboard that looks something like this. And I've already got a previous application on here. We can have multiple apps running on Heroku without an issue. And we want to create a new app. And then we can give our app a name. I'm going to choose Reactivities. And it needs to be a unique name, so you can pick whatever name you like, or let Heroku pick one for you just by leaving this field blank. I'm just going to go for the name of the app I've called it. You can choose a region between United States and Europe. Those are the only two choices, and then you can go ahead and create the app. Now this then takes us to the deployment tab, and we've got options about how we can deploy the application to Heroku. We're going to use Heroku Git to do this. And in order to use this, we'll actually need to install the Heroku CLI. So we can go ahead and get this, and I'll just open this up in a new tab. And what you'll need to do, depending on your operating system, is download and install this. And there are instructions for whether you're on a Mac or on Windows or on Linux. And if you're on Linux, then I'd ask you to go and take a look at the options for installing this on Linux. I'm not going to demonstrate different examples. For Windows, we just have an installer. And on a Mac, it uses Homebrew to install this. So if you do not have Homebrew, then please go ahead and install Homebrew via your terminal, and then you'll be able to install their CLI. So we'll need that, and what we'll need to do then is go through the login process through our terminal, and this will allow us to log in to our account. So what we'll do, we'll head back to VS Code, and we'll go to our terminal. And let's go to, in fact, let's stop the application and clear this screen. And I'll just CD up to the Reactivity Solution folder. And let's expand this so that we can see what's going on. So what we'll need to do is say Heroku login and press return. And this will open up in a browser. Obviously, you need the Heroku CLI to have access to this command. And we can open this up in a browser, and then it will take us to a login. And then you can just click the option to log in, and it should register and log us in via the Heroku CLI. And then we can create a new Git repository. We don't need to do that. We've already done this. And if we've already got an existing Git repository, all we need to do is add a remote for our application. So I'm just going to copy this line and go back to the terminal and paste this in and press return. And now we have the remote added as well. So let's go back to the Heroku configuration that we also need to do. And if we scroll back up, we also need a resource. And what we're going to do is click the Resources tab. And we can add an add-on. And what we want to look for is Postgres. And if we use Heroku Postgres, then we've got an option for a hobby dev free version. And there are different options. You can pay for this and get better performance, but we're going to go for the free option in our case. And then we can go ahead and submit the order form. And then if we click on this database, then we can see its various settings and how many connections it has. Now, it is free, so there are limits to what we can do with this, and we can only have 20 connections. We can only have 10,000 rows in our database. So watch out for this, as it is free and you do get what you pay for. And in our case, we haven't paid anything for it. So do bear this in mind. It's just really for dev and testing. But if we go and take a look at its settings, then this provides us with database credentials, and we can go and take a look at this. And it gives us a user and a password. But this is dynamic. It's not consistent. Heroku can change these at any time, so you don't want to use these inside your connection string. And we'll take a look at a solution for that. And we've also got the options to reset and destroy the DB as well. So that's our database. And what we also want to take care of is our settings. And inside here, what we can supply is environment variables. So that secret information that we kept in our appsettings.json file, this will not be sent up with our deployment to Heroku. Because we're using Git to deploy it, then our appsettings.json is ignored in our Git configuration. So what we need to do is supply the config variables inside the settings here. And notice we've got our config variable for the database URL already configured inside here. And what we'll do is, in our code, we'll create our connection string from the values that's stored inside here, and we'll take a look at a way to do that. But what we also need to do is supply the values that are contained inside our appsettings.json file. So we need to specify cloudinary, and we'll add this configuration first of all, followed by a colon, and then cloud name. Spelling is important here, because if you get your environment variables wrong, then of course your functionality is not going to work. And I'll just specify replace me as its name for the time being. And then we'll specify cloudinary and our API key. And again, I'll just say replace me. And then we'll specify cloudinary and API secret. And again, I'll just say replace me. And click add. And there's one more key we need to add, which is for our token key. And remember, we use super secret key inside our app settings development.json. Well, this is our production environment, don't forget. So now we need a much stronger key for this. And if I just go to any random password generator site, and I'll just specify a password length of 32, which is more than adequate. I'll take out include symbols just in case they cause an issue, and just generate a random password, which I'll use to copy into the settings inside here, and click on add. And that's a pretty secure key that nobody's going to be able to guess. And what I'll do is I'll just update the settings inside here. So make sure your cloud variables or cloudinary variables are correct. And I'll leave the replace me for the API secret there just for now, just so I can demonstrate what happens when you get an exception in Heroku in a little while. So with these in place, what we can do then is add a build pack, because we need our application to run using the .NET runtime. And what we can do is we can just search for .NET build pack, and the second one in this list, this gincod.NET Core build pack, is one that works with our application. Don't be fooled by the Heroku specific one here. This is experimental and it doesn't work with .NET 5, even though it says it does. This one definitely does. The one gincod.NET Core build pack is the one that we'll use. Now inside here, we've got some usage, and it would be tempting to think that we're using the latest stable version of .NET Core. And we are, but this one doesn't work. This is for .NET 3. I wish there was version numbers alongside this, but there isn't. The one that does work is .NET Core Edge. And what we'll do is we'll copy this line into our clipboard. We'll head over to VS Code, and we'll go back to our terminal, and we'll just paste in that line of code, which is going to set our application to use that specific build pack. Now there's one more thing of configuration we need to do that I almost forgot, and I'll just reveal the config variables once again. And what we want to do in here is specify ASP.NET Core _ environment, and we're going to set this to production. And once again, be careful of spelling, of course, whilst you're inside here. And this is the settings we need inside Heroku. What we'll take a look at next is actually deploying our app and making sure things are working.